Welcome, Scott. How are we?
Not bad, not bad.
Right, so obviously the previous video was a quick fire, so we're going to do something a bit different and just a few questions. You're going to give a bit more of an in-depth kind of view on it, or an in-depth version of your story, and we'll go from there. So, the first one is, what's your most memorable capture?
Okay. Well, my most memorable capture would probably be one of my most recent captures, which would have been probably late spring maybe, fishing on big pit down Cotswolds, and I turned up for a quick overnighter. So I turned up quite late. There was about an hour or so left of dark.
Standard for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's basically most of my fishing was. Although I've started doing a few more two-nighters towards the autumn, so hopefully that'll continue. But I turned up and I'd been on a run of blanks, as you always are. I was on a run of blanks. I'd been setting myself this plan that I was going to ignore what I had seen and just stick to this idea in my head, because every time I turned up the last couple of months, I've been seeing them in areas, or especially the one I wanted to catch, fishing as close to them as I could, and then waking up in the morning with nothing and finding them 30 acres down the lake or something like that, nowhere near me. So they were obviously passing me at some point and I wasn't given a chance to catch them. Yeah. So I turned up, I think I'd probably spoken to you and spoken to some other people, and I told them that that's what I was going to do. I knew where they were going to be when I arrived, and I was going to stick to my guns.
Should have just poked Lloydie up.
He wasn't there, I don't think, at the time. I think he was banned. But I went to... So I turned up, I looked like I always do, found them where I thought I was going to do, and then I spent, I don't know, half an hour walking up and down, trying to tell myself not to fish where the fish were, which is what, obviously, you always do. But I told myself I wasn't going to. And then after a few conversations, looking a few more times, I seen the one I really want feeding in an out of bounds area, really quite close to the swim that I should fish, but the one I said I wasn't going.
Right, okay. So was that the smaller out of bounds area or the bigger one?
Smaller, the beach end, the shallower area. So I went up there, and I remember I stood right on the edge of the out of bounds. Well, I suppose it's not. But there's a rope that separates one area, and then there's another rope, I don't know, from where I was another 30 yards away. And I stood there looking, and I heard one crash out to my left, and it was in between these ropes. So I looked down, and I seen what is a fish I call the friendly limb, and it come underneath the rope, and I thought, that's definitely a fish that's crashed. It come out in front of me, and literally put the brakes on, dropped down, probably eating snails, because we ended up watching them feeding snails the day after, didn't we?
Yeah.
Dropped down, started troughing, swam off to my right, and within 5 seconds it came back with a really heavily scaled one that's it's quite regular to get caught with the big one and the big one. They came together and they started feeding. And in my eyes, they were probably 30 yards away from where I could actually fish. Maybe a little bit further, but I remember thinking it wasn't that far if they took the right route. Any other route, I was nowhere near them.
Yeah.
If they went the right route, I'd be near them. So I went back. Obviously I changed my mind. I did what I said I wasn't going to do, obviously, and I got set up.
It's hard not to, though, isn't it? If you see something and you can get close to them, it's hard not to react to them.
Yeah, it is, but it's so common up there. Most times, you have this staff. Most times you go there, you will find them in and out of bounds, especially during May to October, during them warmer months. You would always find them in one or the other. Yeah. If you're looking, but it doesn't. It never means you're going to catch them, because it doesn't do as many bites as you probably think his swim should. So I got in the swim. I led up. I found a really clean spot. I put a rod on there. I got tenched out in the end, and I found a weedy spot, and it was onion weed. And it was the only place I'd ever found onion weed, and it was probably only a small area of quite short onion weed, a big wall of Canadian outside. Yeah. Put a rig on it, a couple of spawns on it. Sometime in the morning, I can't remember what time it was, I can't remember if it was a screamer or not. I'm guessing it was a screamer, it was in shallow water. Ripped off. I pulled into it thinking it's as good a chance it could be one of these three fish I was watching feeding, although I have caught one of them before, the bigger ones I hadn't, so I was hopeful. I've gone out in the water. I could probably have waded all the way to the fish, which in the end I probably did wade halfway to where I hooked it, and my head torch was a bit. You know when it's dying, it's just flickering. You ain't got a proper light.
Yeah.
So I was watching it, and I could see it was just this big long thing, and the big gill's really big and scaly and long, and you know at the right time. Sometimes it's been £50, so it's a real big fish, and I've seen this big long thing swimming around. But I couldn't tell. To me, it didn't look like it had many scales on, but I couldn't tell. I carried on to playing it, and at one point it must have touched the surface, and I had walked halfway to the fish to make sure I got it. So I was up.
The water level was down, wasn't it? So you was.
It wasn't too bad, but you could walk all the way to the out of bounds rope if you wanted to anyway, even with the water level up, because the margin's so shallow.
It was down a bit though, wasn't it? Because we've seen all them crayfish.
Oh yeah, the water level was low, yeah, because they all left in the morning.
Yeah.
But I got it in the net, looked at it. It was obvious what fish it was. It wasn't the target, but it was a really. It wasn't a fish that I necessarily wanted, but when I seen it on the bank, I think it was a much more special carp than I thought it was. And it was my first £40, first fish of the year from that, only fish of the year by the end of the season. I didn't get another bite, but first £40, a really special carp, well known in the area, and that is definitely.
Well, it's the second biggest mirror, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but it got caught later on in the year, walloping weight, at its biggest ever weight. But yeah, it's the second biggest mirror in the lake.
And how big did it go?
£40.6.
Ideal.
And that's the one for me.
Yeah.